about the third or the fourth grade. That's when our boys, and they played Little League, that's when they changed pitching. And instead of being machine pitching, they went to kid pitch. And there was a really interesting thing that happened when each time the batter came up to the plate. And it really seemed to fall into one of two camps. Either the batter knew they were going to get hit and anticipated getting hit by a wild ball, or the batter stepped up to the plate and said, I'm going to hit that ball. What's the difference between the two is really confidence. And that's what we're talking about today, and why it's so important for you to work on this as a skill so that your business can be successful. Well, howdy everyone, my name is Leslie Hassler. I own Your Biz Rules business coaching, and this is the Be More Successful show, where we work with you, service-based business centers, to be more successful in your business so that you can grow, you can scale, you can be profitable, and you can enjoy all the rewards of business. And today comes hot on the heels. I was thinking back to a time I was giving a talk at an organization, and we had a little bit of time for Q&A, and somebody asked the question, what's the number one problem? What's the most popular problem that entrepreneurs have? And I hadn't gotten that question yet, so it took me a minute. I had to sit there and think, and I was like, oh, these are one of those questions people try to ask to stump you. And then it came to me. And I said quite easily, the biggest problem that people have is in between their heads. It's their confidence. It's the way they deal with fear and doubt and uncertainty. And our story about the batter, that just kind of illustrates it as well. That first off, it's a very common problem. It's something we all struggle with. I consider myself to be a highly confident person, and I will tell you that earlier this week I was not so confident, right? So it's normal to go through times where you're less confident. But what I know is, just like focus, just like discipline, just like almost anything else that you need to do in your business to be successful, confidence is a skill. And it can be cultivated. And so it's not so much about whether or not you fall into moments of being less than confident. It's what you do when you get there. So I thought we'd come with three quick and easy tips on ways that you can work on confidence as a skill set for yourself as an entrepreneur. I think the first thing that's really important, and it's so simple it feels cheesy. And because it feels cheesy, people don't often do it. But it really is important. And that is to recognize and celebrate all progress and all wins, no matter how small and no matter how big. Everything deserves celebration. In fact, there's a quote that says, celebrate more of what you want to see. Here's why this is important. When we don't take time out to recognize, to acknowledge things that are going well, either in forms of gratitude or in celebration, we tend to only see the things that are not going well. And so we don't give ourselves a recharge, if you will, a little endorphin boost, if you will, when those little things happen. And most entrepreneurs are thinking about tomorrow, always thinking about the future. And so if you don't take the time to be present in today so that you can have a tomorrow, it can be really hard to keep those batteries running at full charge and feeling confident when you're up against maybe some things that are going to require more learning. And that brings us to tip number 2. So tip number 2 is focus on progress, not perfection. And even more than just progress, focus on learning, because the world is changing too fast, as if 2020 didn't, teach us that we're not in control. You just really need to adopt a more agile, adaptive type of a personality or outlook when it comes to what you're trying to accomplish. So that if we're making progress, even if it's not on our timetable, and it rarely is, we can still feel accomplished. If we're looking for perfection and that holy grail of success, likely we'll never get there. And so it's really hard to feel confident if you don't see the progress that you're doing as you go on. I think this is really super important the longer you've been in business. I've been in business for 14 years. I've seen this happen in my own business. I've seen it happen with my clients. The longer you've been in business, interestingly, the longer it takes to make big things happen. And that's kind of it's perceptive type of thing. So it's the reason why being 5 and celebrating being 5 years old is so much more monumental than maybe celebrating being 55, because the 5 years relative, if when you get to be another year older at 5, you've increased your lifespan by 20%. Well, when you get to be another year older at 55, you've increased your lifespan by a little minuscule perspective. So it's one of these things that we have to help our brains really see and cherish the progress that we're making towards a goal. And know that even if it's not happening on the timetable you initially thought it should happen at, it's still happening. And that's something to celebrate. And so now tip number 3, 1, 2, 3, so easy. This one is about what you feed your brain, your mind, your soul. Just as, there are dietitians and weight loss coaches and fitness gurus out there talking to you about what you feed your body, what you feed your mind and your soul is as equally important. So like earlier this week, I was frustrated. I was not feeling confident in what I was doing. It felt like, man, every time I try to do something, I just keep getting told that it's wrong. And I'm like, help me. Serenity out. The first thing I go do is I go meditate, because honestly, that clears out the icky emotion part of things that I'm experiencing, gives me a different frame of reference, and recharges my batteries so that I can actually acknowledge number 1 tip of, those small wins. I can see progress, not perfection, right? And I do it from a different lens. Now, I don't personally meditate every day, but I do meditate frequently. And when I have periods of extreme low confidence, I meditate more. I double down on the meditation. So that's just a little of what works for me, what I've seen work for others. Know that confidence is a skill. You don't have to stay in that feeling under, less than, not good enough realm. You can choose to feel better. And there's multitudes of ways that you can do that. And when you do, when you're confident, so many things in your business just work, even if you haven't changed what you're doing. And that's confidence at play. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you're doing well. Let me know your thoughts, your questions. What did you think about today's topic? If you enjoyed this, please share this with your friends, see what they think. And as always, we'll be talking to you soon. I'm Leslie Hasser with Your Biz Rules Business Coaching.